𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆
As the pioneer in Sri Lanka's bottled water industry, American Water has set the standard for over 3 decades, made to be shared between friends. To fuel your next move. For a festive family meal. To help you stay hydrated wherever you may roam. For over 30 years, we've brought the Earth's bounty directly to you, wherever you are, whatever your needs.
At ESU, every class, every opportunity unlocks a new version of yourself. Welcome to the Infinite You. Welcome to ESU.
As the pioneer in Sri Lanka's bottled water industry, American Water has set the standard for over 3 decades, made to be shared between friends. To fuel your next move. For a festive family meal. To help you stay hydrated wherever you may roam. For over 30 years, we've brought the Earth's bounty directly to you, wherever you are, whatever your needs.
At ESU, every class, every opportunity unlocks a new version of yourself. Welcome to the Infinite You. Welcome to ESU. As the pioneer in Sri Lanka's bottled water industry, American Water has set the standard for over 3 decades, made to be shared between friends. To fuel your next move. For a festive family meal. To help you stay hydrated wherever you may roam. For over 30 years, we've brought the Earth's bounty directly to you, wherever you are, whatever your needs. At ESU, every class, every opportunity unlocks a new version of yourself. Welcome to the Infinite You. Welcome to ESU.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And we have our first champion of the Dialogue School's rugby knockouts, 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 College, snatching it at the final minutes of what was one of the best rugby games we've seen in the recent past. Welcome to the Rugby Show with Boa Athu live from Quadrangle, and it's our time to review the much anticipated Dialogue Schools Rugby League President's Trophy knockout final. 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 takes it at the death, 12 points to 9. We have with us our very own Statspert Boa Athu ready with all of his nitpicks on whatever happened in the game, be it the drop kicks, his predictions, to what he saw was wrong, to what he saw was brilliant from both teams. Good morning, Boa.
Morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be on planet Earth. I know this has been a very highly anticipated show. So, welcome to the show, everyone. And again, what an outstanding game of footy we had. I think this game, the KO 25 final, which was contested by the Green Machine, 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆, and Trinity, the Lions from Pallekele, if I may say that, will probably go down as one of the greatest games of rugby, not just schoolboy rugby, in the history of the island nation. You know, there's everything, wasn't it? There was, as I predicted very correctly, a drop goal, drop goal attempts. A couple of stunning tries. Unbelievable try right at the end. There was just all heart and tenacity, and of course all that drama in between. It was a well contested game. Yeah, there's a few mistakes here and there, but that's to be expected, and that's the beauty of playing knockout footy early in the season. So yeah, it was edge of the seat stuff, and what a way to start the season. And I'm glad that the Schools Association listened to what I've been banging on the door all along. Play the knockout first, and you can see how much enthusiasm, how much engagement, and how much chatter this has caused. So well done to both schools. Massive congratulations to the winner, 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆, back-to-back true kings of the knockout. And, they call themselves the kings of rugby. Good on them. And, of course, Trinity College, I don't think, it takes two to tango. It's Romeo and Juliet. You played your role almost to perfection. You almost had it. But you can hold your heads up high and, you move on to the league with a lot of experience and a great form line. So there you go, Jugs. Outstanding way to start the season, 25.
Indeed, Boa. Now, in my context, I think it's bittersweet. I think rugby was the winner, but then again, being from Trinity, not the result that you would expect, but always proud of the boys for making it this far. By the way, Boa, any predictions on whether you could run for SLR president at this point, because you're making so many predictions? Might as well give it a go.
Look, I've been asked this question many times. Am I getting no? Look, my Jags, I do this as a hobby. I am very fortunate that I get the chance to make a living out of being involved in rugby. I've spent almost all my adult life here in Auckland, New Zealand. I've spent pretty much all my adult life learning the art of coaching, and I learn every day. And I've pretty much achieved what I wanted to. Winning Gallagher Premiership here, and doing this show. And a lot of people ask me, why do you do this? For me, this is a hobby. It just helps me staying connected to a competition which I absolutely love and adore. And the first 15 competition in Sri Lanka, where I played for my old school, Royal College, is where it all started. So for me, it's all about the schools first 15. It's just a pure competition. As far as anything else, not interested. And to be frank, it's what I would call a poison chalice, because the way I express my opinions, I'm a very black and white person. I try and be as honest and unbiased and unfiltered as I can. I don't think I'm going to last 5 minutes in any sort of capacity trying to do anything at headquarters, because it's just far too political. And I for me, it's all about performance. And when you're in a high performance environment, you have to have tough, honest conversations. So I don't think that's going to go too down well with. Sorry, I don't think that's going to go too well with too many people, and they'll probably find a way to get rid of me really quickly. So no, not interested. Let's keep making predictions. Let's focus on this competition, and just want to make sure that we connect with all the fans on the rugby show.
All right, now we know that who is definitely not going to be the next SLR president. Let's get into the game. Firstly, I think the build up to the game. Let's talk about, because we have the entire show to ourselves to review this final. Let's first of all talk about the build up to the game. I think it was a much anticipated final since 2013. Both of these schools have not met in a knockout final, and it's a really look forward to game when it comes to Trinity and 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆. But on the ground, there was a small uncertainty for the fans regarding tickets. How's the logistics going to work? Obviously, the venue was shifted from Sugadda Stadium to Royal Complex. Now, that was communicated properly. But with regard to tickets, there was no formal information given out to the fans, and there was no proper information whether tickets are sold out. You had to go to the venue to know whether there were tickets. Obviously, there were enough and plenty more tickets when you got there, but there was a lot of misinformation going around saying that tickets were already sold out. Now, when it comes to a final like this, especially a very highly anticipated game from a cross-country final, actually, but don't you think that there should be a much clearer communication line between the fans and the Sri Lanka Schools Rugby Association, maybe, or even the main sponsors of this event, Dialogue, for example? I think at the very, very last moment, some communication was made, but there was a large misconception of how these tickets would work, and there were debates around prices and all of that. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, look, you're right, Jugs, and this is the thing. Miscommunication or the lack of communication is something which plagues the island nation, right? And then what happens is, people start coming up with their version of what they think should happen, and then that leads to rumors and gossip and all sorts of stuff. So it's really simple. I know the authorities are watching and listening very intently. They follow what I say very, very closely. And what I say is scrutinized. And of course, I put a post up on my Facebook group, Straight Up Rugby. It was a little bit humorous as well because there were some, rather unusual requests for the spectators coming to watch the game. For example, no helmets, glass bottles, and of course, I was asked the question if we go to the venue and mention your name, can we get in for free? So I wish I had that level of power and influence. I do not. But what I have to say is, like, keep things really simple. Social media is a really, really powerful tool. So just come up with a really simple post, a simple graphic saying, these are the ticket options. This is where it's available from what time, and then just keep things really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, and just get it out there on the outlets where, for example, with Quadrangle, I know we have particularly with this show, we have a very, very strong, very big following. Just put it out there with the right outlets, and everything will take care of itself. And again, also, I think it's important that the organizers communicate with particularly the two schools who were involved in the final, so that they can get the correct information out to their respective supporters, their groups. So again, it's just about keeping things really simple. I mean, like you and I, we're having a chat, and we talk simple things. We are 1+1 = 2 type normal people, normal human beings. So keep things simple and keep it clear. Clarity is very important. I had so many questions asking, "Oh, are they going to reduce prices? Do we get a discount?" Like, again, folks, I wish I had the power to do that. But if you have any of these requests and any feedback, what I would urge everyone out there watching, get this feedback to the powers that be, and hopefully that will make for an easier way of getting or watching the future competitions.
Indeed, Bob. Let's hope that the next final or next big game is much less of a misunderstanding and much more of enjoyment. Now, getting to the technical jargon of the game, not jargon, I think it was pretty simple. Both teams played their absolute hearts out. But let's look at the leaders for the majority of the game. Let's say Trinity had arguably one of the greatest games they could have asked for. First 20 minutes, they were at the neck of 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗯𝘆, obviously Patana opening the scoring with a brilliant runaway try. But Shan Altaf's golden boot brought them from 9-7 to a lead of 9-7. Let's first talk about what we saw, or the consistency, or what are the new things that we saw in Trinity's game that actually made them lead for 70 minutes and 54 seconds, let's say.
I think obviously Trinity watched this show very, very intently, very closely. Every word which comes out of my mouth, they seem to be incorporating to their game plan, more so with their willingness to play territory. It was very, very clear that they were looking for the box kick, the up and unders, and of course using Altaf on the kick receive, which 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗯𝘆 also tried to do for a certain period of the time in that first quarter, I thought. But again, Trinity wanted to play the game in the right part of the field, and they did that well enough. It's just that crucial areas, like they made mistakes at at a point where you could least afford to make mistakes, and they just turned the ball over. And I thought they left a lot of points on offer which they didn't convert. And the other aspect of their game is what I was super impressed about the Trinity defensive effort was their line speed and the ability to make one-on-one tackles. And man, there were some crunching tackles, for schoolboy first 15 level. Very, very impressive. They were just around about sternum. They tackle the ball and man together, and they go up as one line. And some of those hits, I felt that they put a lot of effort into it. And of course, the other part of the innovation, which was not innovation, they really worked on it, is their two-man tackle and jackal. So they tackle in pairs. They have a man at the top, so it's called a top, and then they go to the bottom. It's called a top and chop. The French did this a while back very, very effectively. They have the first man tackling just underneath the sternum, and then the second man around the waist and the thighs. And soon as they take the ball carrier to the floor, they release, and both men go for the ball. So there were, I think, 3 instances where they successfully turned the penalty over. And again, if you recall, last couple of shows I was talking about the defensive effort between the 40 meter and the 22 meter, putting pressure and looking to force the penalty, which is exactly what they did. And when they did that, they shot for goal. Now, of course, where things didn't quite work out is the goal kicking was, the percentages were atrocious. There were so many penalties which were missed. I think there was 8 penalties which were missed. So these were the sort of things I saw, and it's just a bit of a shame that they didn't quite convert that pressure into points. But a lot of innovation, a lot of they've really simplified what they want to do, and I think as they get more game time and more preparation as they go into the season, they're going to get better with the accuracy. So once they get accurate and once they minimize their mistakes, I think this Trinity side is going to be a very, very difficult proposition to beat on any day.
Indeed, Bob. What particularly caught my eye was the first 20 minutes. What Trinity was trying to do made sense. 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗯𝘆 is known for running from their own try line. They know how to play wide and fast rugby, but Trinity understood the pattern, done with 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗏𝗆, putting in some brilliant box kicks at times. And it did quite work out in the first few minutes, but I think the excitement of the game let a couple of Pathanians through, and that first runaway try was something that they could have avoided if the defense line was true, but also the early yellow card truly hurt them in the sense of that first try, but obviously Trinity playing a superb game to dominate till the last minute. It was a fight of grit, and the boys from Kandy should be massively proud of their game. Now, before we move on to the Pathana side of things, the Green Machine, I think we hear beautiful voices all around the park, but the one voice that everyone could hear, which they had never heard for the entirety of the year, was the referees. The mic was back, the TMO was back. How much of an impact did it make? Did it make or break the game?
Well, it certainly could have broken the game. Let's put it that way. And it certainly made for some entertaining, voiceovers and just listening to the referee. There's some very interesting incidents. We'll talk about that. We'll break it down later on. But again, it's more transparency and actually giving more clarity to what's actually happening at ground level. Because again, we know that the local referees are under the spotlight every single time they get out there. And given that this was a grand final, and even in the lead up, particularly on social media, there's a lot of chatter around the referee selection. And the reality is, no one is ever going to be 100% happy with whoever is selected, because there's always going to be some previous controversy swirling around. So the good thing about this is, I think it's twofold. One, obviously, everyone needs to get clarity and listen to what the referee is saying and communicating. That's number one. And of course, keep in mind, and I have to say a massive thanks to our partners at the papre.com for, they're good enough and allowing us to use the footage. But one criticism I have is, of course, for everyone, particularly our overseas viewers who want to watch these games, yeah, you're paying a pretty penny. You're paying a pretty penny. In some countries up to $70 to $80 in their local currency for a season pass. So when you're forking out this type of money, you need a quality broadcast, and you need these, aspects of the broadcast which make for an enjoyable viewing experience. So that's the other side of the coin. Okay, because I got so many messages saying, "Oh, this is just they're holding us to ransom." Well, I'm not going to be too critical about it, because I know the outstanding work the crew at the Papre do. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So I go back to what you said. It's really nice. Well done to the referees for agreeing to get the voiceover on the broadcast. And it's a double-edged sword, like you asked me, did it make or break it? Well, it certainly had the potential to break it, and I think we had just a little crack or two up here. But all in all, in the end, I think the right decisions were made. Be it whether the protocols of allowed is a bit questionable. Again, we'll get into that. But it's good. I think the more communications, the better, and from a broadcasting, from a viewer's point of view, it makes for a better viewing experience. So there you go.
Indeed, Boa. Now, getting into the heated moment of the game, let's say, something that probably shattered hundreds and thousands of hearts of the Trinitians. Absolute brilliance in the 22, intercepting a pass to the try, basically sealed the game in the 71st minute. 61st minute, sorry. And it's taken back, and the try is disallowed. Obviously, TMO has been consulted. Now, there's a lot of conversation about what exactly happened there. I think since we have a lot of time today, we can dive a bit deeper into the technicality that played in there. Obviously, we have a hot take on what actually did happen. But, Boa, what do you think about that entire scenario? Shall we run through that entire scenario? I think people have seen the footage already that's been circulating all around. So I don't think the footage is absolutely needed to understand the situation, but the technicality behind it, so that the viewers know when and when not to argue about this incident.
Yeah, look, it was more confusing than anything else, and the confusion happened if I would quickly run through the whole scenario, there was Isipatana were on attack on the right edge just prior to the just before the 22 on the left edge, and Trinity were contesting the ruck. And then what happened was right at the end, the Trinity number 8. Now I know a lot of people talk about the side entry and blah blah blah. But, technically there's no such thing as side entry in the rule book. You have to enter the ruck from the behindmost foot. So, for example, the number 8 should have entered that ruck going right to the back of his bunch of players, and there would be one player who had the behindmost feet, and he should have gone past that and then entered into the ruck. It would have been fine, and they could have probably scored the turnover. But because he didn't, he kind of used that term, the side entry, and the referee quite correctly calls out penalty advantage. So penalty advantage is a bit different to like getting an advantage from a scrum or a knock-on or something like that. There has to be clear tactical or territorial. So tactical is from a Isipatana going forward from a tactical point of view. Is there a clear advantage? And if so, where can we call it over? And territorial is if they move a certain. Now, I know there's people talk about meters and phases, but there's no hard and fast rule about that. If you look at rule number 7, viewers out there smart enough, you can Google it. I'll post a link as well. So, long story short, once the ball was moved down the line from the right edge towards the left, and when the Isipatana player put that big cutout pass, obviously Shahan Altaf was good enough to hit the line in between and intercept that ball. Okay. Now, what should have happened was, soon as he hit the intercept, the referee should have blown his whistle and said, look, no advantage for Isipatana, and then he should have taken play back to where the original infringement, where there was incorrect entry into that ruck, and awarded Isipatana a penalty kick. Okay, that's what should have happened. But for some reason, either he got too excited or he really wanted to see Shahan Altaf run and score try or create some more drama. I don't know what it is. You're going to have to ask the referees about this. Or maybe it's just, I'll say it out loud, plain incompetence. And obviously Altaf, he just scoots away like a racehorse, and some beautiful pictures out there as well. And if I was Trinity College Rugby, I'd actually take that picture and frame it and put it up on your walls, because that is a timeless, iconic picture of him just racing away, albeit that he didn't score the try. So anyway, he scores the try, and then, of course, the try is awarded, and then everyone is just euphoric. And then, obviously, the AR, or the touch judge, we don't call it touchy anymore, the assistant referee, reminds him, oh, hang on a second, I think there was an advantage you forgot. Now, this is where the confusion comes in, because now, obviously, he didn't wave the advantage off and take play back, which he should have done. He then consults the TMO, and the TMO is asking. Now, that's not the right thing to do. That's not the right protocol. Now, in some competitions, depending on the competition rules, now I verified all this with one of my very good friends who used to be the head of TMOs for World Rugby and Rugby World Cup. And I showed him the clip, and we went through all the rules, just simplified everything. And he brought up a very valid point, saying, look, depending on certain competitions, there might be a provision in their rules. So I don't think the local schools competition has passed that rule, saying that, referees, on-field ref can actually check for any penalty advantages via the TMO. So that's where all this confusion came in. And then, of course, Anil Jayasinghe, who's a very experienced referee and TMO in his own right, he sort of said, hey, look, he didn't really want to commit saying that you should go back. But what he said was, oh, look, if you think the advantage wasn't over, you can sort of go back, sort of giving him a slight direction. So then what obviously happens is the AR comes in and says, no, look, you've got to go back. So then he waves it off, and then he goes right back to the original infringement where there was incorrect entry. So all in all, the right decision was made. There's no question about that. Okay, so just so I can put everyone's doubts whether that try should have stood or not. it was just that whole miscommunication and confusion and that drama and theatrics which kind of built up that anticipation. So I can understand why the Trinity crowd and supporters would feel a little bit let down. And that's just how it is. So I guess it's a bit of a learning. And end of the day, the right call was made. So I mean, my initial thought was like, look, guys, just should be play on, because my understanding there was referee may have implied, but he didn't say it. He may have implied that the advantage was over. And of course, understand this: had Shan Altaf knocked that ball on, it would have been a yellow card for deliberate knockdown. So there's a lot of scenarios here. But in future, and I hope the referees are watching, and I know they are. Just wave the advantage over. And if you do have a TMO, if the on-field referee misses anything, TMO, please don't be afraid. Just get on the earpiece, and the broadcast does not need to have this live, or the audience does not need to hear it. Just tell him, hey, look, I think you missed this. Just go back there. We got to use technology. So a bit of learning, a bit of confusion, a bit of drama, but this just added to the whole fueling of this mass, debate. I mean, I put a little post on my Facebook thread saying, bone of contention. I've just some of the online debates, just extraordinary, as if people's lives depended. But that just goes to show how much passion is in this game. So long story short, right call was made. Just the way the confusion, the advantage should have been waved off straight away, rather than allow Shan Altaf to score one of the greatest tries, which never was. So I hope that is comprehensive and that covers everything and puts it to bed.
To be or not to be in it.
There you go.
The try that never scored. But anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
What could have been. But here's my take on it after watching it. Maybe this was the first time we saw the TMO in action this entire season, but had it been used a bit earlier, had we had the privilege of having it a bit earlier, or more frequently in schools games, now that schools games are actually becoming much, much more closely contested and many contentious calls are being made, what do you think a provision for more implementation of TMO in at least semi-finals onwards, or maybe progressively having it in almost all games in the future, would or would it not make a difference?
100%. Like I keep saying this, it's the viewer experience. And when you're paying top dollar, which I think we are, it's a no-brainer. We've got to have this. If someone's coming and saying it's too expensive, I don't buy that at all, because it's basic economics, supply and demand. I'll give you a really good example. Now, the club competition and even the recently concluded, the Tuskers versus the weight restricted team, all this was free. No one had to pay for it. But when it comes to the schools game, people have to pay through their teeth. So it's a supply-demand situation, right? And the reality is, the way this is going, people will actually pay more. If they have to, they'll grumble and they'll complain, but they'll pay more because there is an insatiable demand. So it's up to the schools association, it's up to the broadcast to do the right thing and make sure that the viewer's experience is top notch. So it's a no-brainer. And let me also say this: had there been no TMO, chances are Green Machine would have been on toast. Yeah. So let me say that as well. So all Isipatana fans out there, how would you feel today if there was no TMO and if the try was awarded? Okay, so we've got to be, we've got to use common sense, and where there's supply and there's good demand, all technology has to be this. I think it's a no-brainer. And the longer we delay the inevitable, and again, look, it's not going to be practical to have the TMO for every single game. That's just not going to work. But like you said, for the key games, I think it's going to be a must particularly on the top four, because most of the complaints always come from the top four schools. You never hear the tier two or the if with the greatest respect, the minor schools complain, or the lower ranked schools. So yeah, I'm 100% with you, Jugs.
Indeed. And now that we put a lot of the officiating to bed, there is the other side of the story, the last minute champions, or I'd say the entire time they were playing with their heart on their sleeves. Absolute domination when it comes to grit and power. It didn't seem like they were tired enough to just let it go at the end. But my time is up here. Tehran has just logged in after what is a busy day of work for some more action. A great side of the story, the Green Machine pulling it off last minute in what could go as probably the most tightly contested knockout final that they've been a part of. On the other side, you'll see Tehran Bazir logging in and bringing you the updates and the prima 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗎 moment of the game. But for now, it's goodbye from me. Let's speak next week with more rugby action to come. The Dialogue Schools Rugby League is just around the corner. Thanks, boy. Over to you, Tehran, and good night from me.
Thank you, Jugs. Welcome on board, Buzz, the man of the moment.
Welcome back, Bo. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another new show. Good to see you all again, wherever you are around the world or around Sri Lanka, watching this action-packed rugby show with, of course, Mr. Boa here, this lovely LA from New Zealand. I really want to talk. Yeah, it was a great session. Thank you, Jagit, for handling the first segment. And it's time for me to take over the second segment. So we'll start with that. And obviously, as what I've heard it was mostly spoken from Trinity's end with Jagit. Let's take 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆 end for a bit, Boa. It was a bit of a rocky start, don't you think, for the Green Machine? I mean, yellow cards to penalties to mistakes. I really was actually worried that the Green Machine would actually lose this until like the 83rd minute, where last minute, that's the number 12 center actually drove past the tackle and scored. But boy, let's just talk about this partner side for a second. How, from all of that pressure that Trinity and especially Sean Altaf, that entire Trinity and that pressure given to the Green Machine, what would happen actually if that last minute try from the Green Machine wasn't given, if it wasn't even thought in the heads of Shakib, Zumri, or anyone? What would happen literally?
Look, I think with the Green Machine, it's been a bit of a pattern apart from the pre-quarter final, which was a bit of a soft win.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at how they played and how they won the quarter final, the semi-final, obviously the final, it's that last 15 minutes where they actually really come into the game, and they really they kind of zone in. They're slow starters. The game against Wesley, they were 10-0 down. No one expected that. They're slow starters. So I think this is a bit of a pattern 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆 need to identify, and I think it's something they rectify. Now, sometimes these things, it's a little bit more than meets the eye. I've worked with teams who've had this same sort of problem. In the last 20 minutes, they completely turn up and obliterate the opposition, right? So slow start is certainly a pattern with this 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆 side. But they have this really uncanny ability to just stay in the fight. It's almost like a pit bull terrier. They just bite, latch on, and they just don't want to give up. That's something really hard to coach. Now, I've coached a side in South Auckland, very similar to this sort of characteristics and tenacity. You just don't give up until that final whistle is gone. And you have to have this belief that your reality has already aligned with the history you are about to make. So if I break that down a little bit further, for 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆, I don't think for the team, the coaches, and their fans, they never ever thought anything other than winning this knockout was the only reality. for them. And they really believed in that, and that showed, and that was the reason why they hung in there. And that last strike, they just kept hammering away, hammering, as if their life depended upon it. And of course, when their second five went over, and obviously, you couldn't see it. My initial reaction was, oh no, he's knocked it on, because there was, the Trinitians asking for the TMO. But then once you saw that reverse angle, you could see the determination, the grit on the eyes of the ball carrier, and there was ever only going to be one result. He was going to dot that down. And what that meant was for 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆 and their fans, from a psychological point of view, it was comprehensive. It was comprehensive. There's no questions. There's no shred of a doubt. And it was for the opposition. And if I want to say this as respectfully as I can, it was almost like a dagger to the heart. And the opposition would be crestfallen. And I understand that. I completely understand that. So I think this game, you're absolutely right. It was a lot of errors, a lot of missed opportunities, lots of knock-ons, lots of indiscipline. There was one instance of foul play. There was yellow cards. So, it's far from the perfect final. It was a very imperfect final. However, I think their belief and determination, more so in their own ability to win it from anywhere, was eventually why they won this grand final.
Right. And just to ask you again, Boa, this question. When we take, of course, the conversions and the penalty kicks. Now, if we see from Shah Alka's point of view, most of his kicks actually went through. That's how they got the leading point at the end, 9-7. Whereas the 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆, number 15, his kicks weren't either close to the bar, neither inside. They were actually had a huge gap towards the outside. So I just want to question whether it's because of that crowd of the audience pressure, that pressure towards the 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗆 15, or there's something that's going on inside that pressure. Because to think about it, the Trinitians, the Lions, the outsiders from Kandy, he should be having the most pressure, if I could say, Shah Altaf. The most pressure in his head should be in Shah Altaf's head to get that points. But then I actually replayed the match as well after the live TV thing. And it seems that the number 15 of the Green Machine, he actually had a little of something going on in his head to miss those kicks. And not a shot is by a huge gap. Just imagine, Bo, let's answer this question. What would happen if those kicks actually went in? The Green Machine would obviously have that momentum back if those kicks actually went in, right?
Yeah, look, no question. Look, first of all, Buzz, I need to address this. Look, I'm always a firm believer, particularly around schoolboy rugby. These are children, okay? These are school kids. They are not paid professionals. They're not All Blacks or Springboks or whoever you want them to be. I know they aspire to that level, but yeah, these are school kids. So we must always be hard on the problem, not the person. And that's why you would never hear me, you would never ever hear me criticize a player or a child, because that's just plain wrong. Okay. The reality is, it's a grand final sold out early in the season. There's plenty of margin for error, which is exactly what we saw. So from a coaching point of view, it's just making sure that these kids get as much training on their individual skill set, in this case, goal kicking or place kicking, and being able to do it in this whole chaos, right? Now, when I mean chaos, the crowd. So the reality is, no amount of training ground kicks will prepare you for this type of cauldron, right? So there's all that pressure. So it's to be expected. I didn't expect it to this degree where they'd miss this many opportunities, but also understand, if we look at some of the decision making, there were many opportunities, just particularly prior to halftime, for either team. All they had to do was take the points, but instead they went for the corner. They they basically blew their own set piece, and then the opposition went on to the other side. Same thing so this happened with Trinity. They had an easy sitter over 3. They went for a scrum, and then there was a tight head. And then Isipatana got back into the game. They went on to the other part of the field, downtown Jurassic Park, and they had an opportunity to kick a goal. They didn't. They went for the line out right at the end. A double Jackal scores the turnover, and Altaf puts it into touch. So again, this is what pressure does. Okay, so from a coaching point of view, and I know both coaches are watching. Let me share something with you. When it comes to decision making, I say this all the time, and I'll say it again. Take the points all the time. It's pretty simple. To do that, don't get emotional. Don't get caught up in that moment. So this is where your mind, so let's imagine our mind is here. Our mind must always be stronger than our feelings. Because you have this feeling of euphoria. You think that, yes, we've got it. The crowd is baying for blood and score the try. And then you put it in the corner only for you to mess it up. So put all that emotion aside. Take the sane option, which is the points. And you're right. Had both teams actually converted all the penalties, scoreline would have been something like, I don't know, 20, 27, 24, something like that. So that's what it really comes down to. But in the end, like I said, Isipatana's belief and grit is what got them home.
Yeah, of course, indeed. Yeah, that clearly was the message brought up at the 83rd minute from that last try from the Green Machine, and just a huge congrats to the Green Machine again, the President's Trophy again, and hope to see them back in action for the Dialogue Schools Rugby League, which will be coming up soon. And let's move on to the Prima Cook to Me moment of the week. And I believe you have given us to talk 3 segments. One is, of course, the Shan Altaf drop goal and Shan Altaf's breakaway, which wasn't awarded by the try. And lastly is the final try from the Green Machine number 12. Before we choose the moment for the Prima Cook to Me moment of the week, do you want to explain in detail what was the key factors from each of these points?
I think the 3 most significant plays of the game. And before I get into it, I just want to congratulate Shan on an outstanding, outstanding effort. And of course, Trinity side, it's a team sport. But the way this kid shown by himself when it really counted, just the leadership he showed, and the way things are going, because had he scored that try and converted it, and had Trinity gone on to win, it would have been Shan Altaf defeats Isipatana, because he's doing and the way things are going, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy who, because he seems to be doing everything for Trinity. He might be the guy at the who updates their Facebook page details as well, because that's how much they rely on this kid. Okay, so outstanding work. The drop goal, of course, I called it yet again, because he has the skill set, and it's the obvious thing to do, because that drop goal he nailed. He had absolutely no cover. He had 4 Isipatana defenders converging on him, but he had so much confidence. He just banged it and gave it an absolute. He just smoked it off his foot, and next thing you know, he just cuts the post dead center. So outstanding, and this from a tactical point of view, I think it's a real match winner, and I think we will see more of this as the season unwinds. There's no question about it. Okay, and of course, it makes me look like it makes me look like an absolute genius, right? The amount of messages I got. Got another prediction. Next time, I might put some money down on it. I don't know whether the bookies take money on schoolboy rugby, but I better watch what I say. We'll get into trouble as well. Now, the second play, obviously, the great try that never was, that intercept. I think the tenacity and the way Altaf read that, and we went for it. And of course, there's an iconic photo of one of the Isipatana wingers trying to, he knows he's been beat and he's just clutching for straws. And he's going for an ankle tap and he's all sprawled. And you could see Altaf like a racehorse with his ears pricked, just hearing towards the goal line. You can see the Trinity supporters at Jurassic Park,
Mhm.
in the Sky Pavilion, just yelling. Amazing photo. And these are the moments you live for. Okay, so iconic moment. And then, of course, the third one, incredible stuff. Just all heart, all green grit. Believing that it ain't over until it's over, and just
Mhm.
showing absolute belief in themselves and going over for that try. I think incredible moment, incredible play. In fact, I think it'll be one of the season-defining moments, if I may say so, going forward. Even though it is very early in the season, so those were my three plays which I have nominated,
Mhm.
and of course,
Yeah.
what I will do now is the Prima Me. The Prima Kottumi. I beg your pardon. Prima Kottumi. Let me say that again. It's not Prima Me. Prima Kottumi. Moment. Player of the
Yeah.
week is none other than the match-winning try in the 72nd minute, in the rain, in dying shadows, at Jurassic
Yeah.
Park. At Jurassic Park. Everyone's now calling it Jurassic Park. It's incredible. I have to say this is a term I coined back in 2018. Jurassic Park. The story behind it is it's a movie about dinosaurs, and because of the royal driving mall, it resembled like a dinosaur, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and that's why I call it Jurassic Park. So in the fading light, in the shadows, at Jurassic Park, the Green Machine score the match-winning try and
Yeah.
thereby sealing KO25. And for those reasons, is my Prima Kottumi Player of the Week. There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, then you heard it, ladies and gentlemen, Prima me moment or shy of the week, of course, by our Statspert Boa Athu. And looks like we have come towards the conclusion of this rugby show. And within just 48 minutes, we have been able to cover the entire segment, really. Well, I just want to see Trinity. Personally, I would love to see Trinity Chelsea Qatar back again at the league for sure. Again, I really can see the Trinity Lions actually working really hard from this point onwards in order to get back at the league. And of course, the Green Machine would really want to achieve the Dialogue Schools Rugby League into their hands as well. But yeah, so if both have anything more to say, we can actually wrap up the show.
I just want to finish on congratulating both teams, congratulating the fans, supporters from each side, and of course all the other schools as well for making this tournament a success, and also vindicating. And particularly, I have been a major advocate for this and a lobbyist, and I think I want to thank the schools association for listening to what I had to say. Play the knockout first. That way, we ensured that we had all the teams competing, all the teams who deserve to be there. And I think there'll be a rematch. Looking forward to Green Machine going up to Kandy. And keep in mind all the major top four schools, when they have to play Trinity, it'll be at the Lions Den. So I think we are going to see a bit of a recalibration of things, and this is why I think Trinity. I know it's always disappointing when you lose last moment, but no amount of training ground, sessions would be able to replicate that intensity you had in the final. So take that form line. And both Isipatana and Trinity have a major leg up, a major advantage, which the other schools don't. Like I said, you cannot recreate that battleground intensity. And I think they're going to, really use this form line going forward into the league. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to these battles coming up. And of course, keep in mind, with Trinity, of course, They have a pre-Bradby fixture. They play my old school, Royal College, at the Lions Den again, first up. And so it's from as far as Trinity goes, and I know I'm sort of talking a bit much on this area only because you asked me. I think they've got a build up. They've got a good progressive build up into their campaign, and of course, we look forward to it.
Absolutely, Boa. Ladies and gentlemen, here, please, we'll be back with this show. The Dive Schools Rugby League is coming up. So do not go anywhere. The show will be back just after the league matches start. Lots of excitement, lots of intensity coming up for you, our viewers. So stick around. And I would just like to take this moment to thank our beautiful sponsors, to Quadrangle for us to make this entire thing a success. So we start off with No Limit, American Water, ECU or ESOF University, and finally, 𝗥𝘂𝗴𝗯𝘆. Thank you so much to our sponsors for Quadrangle making this a success. And also, we would really, really love to thank this special party every single time. ThePapa.com. We thank you guys so much for all the highlight videos, for the small previews, and for allowing us to make those short previews as well. Without you guys, we won't be able to run this show at all. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to use those previews and the highlights. And of course, I would like to thank personally Chama, our behind the scenes guy, who is running this show on point from the back of his seat with all the videos ready. So thank you, Chama, for all that. And finally, I want to thank Jackie for co-hosting with me and doing the first segment. And finally, I want to thank Mr. Boa Athu, of course, the good sir all the way from New Zealand. Thank you so much, Boa, for doing this show again this year. We will catch you soon, and we will catch everyone. All of you viewers, we'll see you again next week or after the Rugby League starts. There's a lot of action coming up. And of course, I would like to allow Mr. Boa Athu to finish this show. Boa, over to you.
Massive thanks to everybody, all our fans, all my fans. I know you guys keep sending me all these messages, and please don't feel offended if I don't respond to everything. I'm not the sort of person who sits in front of a computer trying to respond to each and every comment and message. I have other things in my life to do as well, particularly around rugby. So, but again, I feel very humble. I feel very loved by the fans. Thank you so much, and you know the drill. I will see you soon.
Take care, everybody. See you guys.
As the pioneer in Sri Lanka's bottled water industry, American Water has set the standard for over 3 decades, made to be shared between friends. To fuel your next move, for a festive family meal, to help you stay hydrated wherever you may roam. For over 30 years, we've brought the Earth's bounty directly to you, wherever you are, whatever your needs.
At ESU, every class, every opportunity unlocks a new version of yourself. Welcome to the Infinite You. Welcome to ESU.
ලස්සන පල්ලෝකේ කොත්තු මිසර විහිදේ